Welcome back. There's some things I want to show you and tell you about. So I started grinding. The forging is pretty much done. I haven't really uploaded videos on it, but it looks the same on camera anyway. So I suppose that works out. I suppose I'll show bits and pieces of what I do. So that way you can have an idea, but it would probably get boring to watch the entire thing. So I've done a little bit of grinding on many of the blades. And so far so good. And I've worked on this one the most. And as you can see, there is a distal taper, meaning that it's thicker at the bottom, thinner at the top, in addition to the width. Or the distal taper just means the thickness, and then this is just a taper on the width. Usually just called a taper. Anyway, this one I've done this, which I've worked on this area here using this thing that I made. So there's 2 screws on the side, 2 pieces of metal. Eventually I might buy one that's made of carbide so it can't be ground really. But it does the job of making these pretty even and being a stopper when I'm on the belt sander. Yeah, it's difficult to do with a single hand, but I think you can get the idea. As you can see, the scratch lines are going this way, and normally they go like this. And this one just isn't straightened yet, and this one I want to deposit some material with welding, and this one kept melting. I lost some material, but I realized that what I could do is forge most of it into a blade, have a little bit of a tang, and weld more material on. And I think this stangle will have more space, more length, or area. I think just more length for the weld. That way it can have more weld and hopefully be stronger. But once I do a bit more forging on this, weld this together, then I can grind it. And the angle grinder and belt sander aren't the best setup, but they work for pretty much beginners like me. I'm not a complete beginner. I'm not sure where I'm at, but I'm not Alex Steele, I guess, or Baltimore Knife and Sword that does Men-at-Arms Reforged. I'm beginner to intermediate, somewhere there. And it works. It just takes a bit more time and I think would be a bit limiting. But once I'm done with the swords, they will still be very nice. As far as welding these go, I have a friend who offered me welding services because they have one and they know how to weld. I have a little bit of welding experience, but I don't have a welder. And they have more experience and a welder, so they offered to weld if I needed anything. And I do need something, so we've talked about it, and we're going to do it. It's just a matter of when, but also a matter of gathering materials for a proper quench tank. Because this one is made of plastic. If I were to fill this with oil, put in a red hot sword, plastic is going to get soft from all the heat and bend over and like bends and break, and the oil will be hot from the sword and on fire. Hot oil spilling everywhere, flaming oil spilling everywhere is not good, especially in a wooden shed with most of your sword making tools inside of it. So I'm not going to do that. But what I need is something about like a 6-inch, maybe at least 4-inch pipe. Square, circle, doesn't really matter. Maybe, well, depending on the design. Depending on the materials available, really. Because there's this design with a square where all you have to use is rebar on the corners, and that's convenient. But I need to look into what materials I can get. But it's going to be a lot like this, just made out of metal. And then it won't melt and spill hot oil everywhere. So once I can get those materials, then I can have my friends do some welding. And then I can do some grinding on these swords. Then I can get to grinding on these swords. And another thing I wanted to show you is I got fire bricks, particular kind of fire bricks, because the ones I got from a local store, tried replacing them on the left, keeping the ones on the right, just adding more factory cement. The ones on the left are not holding up very well. Make this stuff at the bottom, and it starts to block the air, and it melts, the brick melts together with the coals and it's not good for the forge, or just that part of the forge. It's not good for how it's not really, yeah, it's not ideal, pretty much. So I ordered fire bricks that are the same as these, that came with the forge, and they sell spares, so I got an entire set, enough to replace all of this. So the idea is that if I can get just this side taken out because they're cemented together, then I can just replace that side. But I might not be able to do that, and I might have to replace it all. But if I can replace just this side, what I might be able to do is make a kind of box over here, get a baking pan or factory cement together the remaining fire bricks, and get a nice box. That way the coals that come out when I have a long piece that goes through, carries coals with it, drops down, and the hot metal hits this. You can cut a piece out of this so you can go farther, get that fire brick box, the coals stay in there, and I would think it would help with heat treating. I might need it, because if I can, these long swords, if I put this all the way through, this part could be cooling down, and I might not be able to heat up the entire blade evenly, or just all up to red hot at all. So I might need that chamber for some insulation and some better heat retention. And of course, on the inside, I'm going to add refractory cement just like I did, because on the right side, it's almost perfectly fine. So I think the forge will be repaired by then, and I won't have to try something again. But failures are part of learning, and I learned these fire bricks don't work, and then and that these do work, so that's great. And I think that is all that I wanted to show you. So I will call it there.